company here. We don't try to be and we don't want to be. All right, if you start to think about it, every other car you're going to see here today and tomorrow is using a technology that they're just trying to find a different way to do something with something that's 120 years old. We are not. We are different than that. We are not trying to give you a different shape and a different color. What we're doing is giving you a fundamentally different car. That's the whole idea. And the idea was not to set out and build a great EV. The idea was to set out and build the best car. The best car. And an EV just happens to be the best way to do that from a user experience and a car engineering standpoint. So what I'd like to do is, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the person who drives us every single day to do exactly that, to make the best car in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, our CEO and Chief Product Architect.
Actually, I'll just welcome everyone. I'm just going to make some very brief remarks and then go immediately into questions. So the real message we want to deliver, the most important message, is that we're confirmed for European deliveries in July. I think that's a real key thing we want to get across since we're here in Geneva. We want to really emphasize European deliveries are starting no later than July. We'll start actually manufacturing them in the cars in June, and then they got to go on a boat and get over here, so it's going to be July when they arrive. We're also making sure that the cars meet the European three-phase charging standard, so you'll be able to charge with three-phase right from the beginning. And we're going to be establishing the Tesla supercharging network throughout Europe. So you'll ultimately be able to drive anywhere you want in Europe using the supercharger network, which will provide, as it does in the US, it'll provide free charging. So you'll be able to have free long-distance travel anywhere in Europe using the Model S. I think it's a really big point, and sometimes people don't appreciate that. I think it's an incredible differentiator. That's the most important thing, is European deliveries, and we're going to actually end up stretching the waiting time for US cars in order to ensure that the European demand can be met. Because we know we're a bit late on European deliveries, so we want to try to make up for that. So I can say that if somebody does place an order for a car in Europe reasonably soon, they will receive their car this year. That is important, also an important point to emphasize. I think sometimes people don't realize that. And then moving on to the Model X, obviously this is a car that we think is going to be quite revolutionary in the SUV and minivan segment for people that are looking for a car that has a full 7-passenger functionality, and in fact is, I think, arguably better than a minivan or an SUV in that category. It has a better ingress-egress. You can actually directly access the third row, which is, I think, important. If you've got a child seat in the second row, it's usually impossible to access the third row. And the door will actually open if you can physically squeeze between your car and another car, you can actually open the double-hinged gull-wing door, or falcon wing as we call it. The other feature it has is dual motor all-wheel drive, which I think is the first time that's going to come to market. We have a motor in the front, motor in the back, and it's able to intelligently switch torque from the front to rear. So literally, if you go over a piece of ice, it'll shift the torque instantly within a millisecond from one motor to the next. And if you have a traditional four-wheel drive with a mechanical linkage, that's impossible. It just has too much latency associated with it. So you can really get a fundamental improvement in all-wheel drive capability by having a dual motor architecture. I think those are the important things to talk about from a Model X standpoint. So let's just go right into Q&A.
How many cars do you have for Europe this year? And what happens with customers who have an old car which they want to trade in? Is that possible with Tesla?
Sure. I think the question is, how many cars will we have available for European delivery this year, and what happens if people have a car that they want to trade in? So we absolutely do take trade-ins, and we'll handle the trade-in for people as we do in the US. And in terms of the total cost for European delivery, it's probably in the roughly 5,000 to 7,000 unit level, maybe a little more than that. Yeah.
Hello.
Do you have a European type approval for the Model S? And can you give us a timetable for the supercharger network? When and where?
Okay, so there's a timetable for the Model X, is that correct?
No.
Or the S?
The type approval for the Model S. Yeah.
Oh,
Is it
type
legal?
approval, oh.
Can you sell it in Europe? Yeah.
Okay.
And the timetable for the supercharger network.
Sure.
When and where?
Okay. Well, we've actually gone through almost all of the EU homologation work already, so it's not really a question of type approval as the gating factor. The gating factor for us is completion of the tooling for the and getting into production with the three-phase charging. So that's the real time-critical factor. We expect that to be in place and be able to start up manufacturing in June, and that's what drives us to the July delivery. But it's really driven by the three-phase charging system on the vehicle, because we're doing a new charger that's not the same as the American charger in the car. And a new connector as well. So it meets the the Meinekes connector. Yeah. So.
Can you confirm that? Is it the Meinekes?
Yeah.
Can you actually confirm it's the Meinekes?
It is the Meinekes compatible connector. Yeah.
Compatible, or is it the actual connector?
No, it's our connector, but it's the geometry of the Meinekes.
So is it the Meinekes connector?
No, so we make the connector, but it is.
You can plug into it. You can plug them in.
So it's smoke-free type 2. Thank you.
Yes, it looks like and is compatible with the Meinekes connector, but it's not actually the Meinekes connector. Meinekes does not make the connector. Let me be clear. Exactly, and there's an important reason for that, is because we're able to reroute the power in order to do a high voltage DC, high powered DC bypass direct to the pack. So when we do the supercharger, we need to be able to shift the power. Instead of AC power going to an onboard charger, it shifts directly to DC power direct to the. The supercharger works is it's a high power DC bypass direct to the.
Hello?
As I said, the supercharger it's tailored to our pack. So we built a supercharger and it understands the pack, and you can only charge at that power level if you really understand the pack chemistry. And that's why you can't just plug any old car into the supercharger. But what the supercharger allows is at 120 kilowatts, for something like the 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, you can charge that pack. You can get up to a sort of 50-60% state of charge in under 30 minutes. From zero. So in order to do long distance travel really efficiently, I think the minimum ratio you need of drive time to stop time has got to be, I'd say minimum 4 and ideally around 6 to 8. So if you drive for 3 hours, you want to stop for 20 to 30 minutes. That's kind of that's the inflection point at which the convenience level is essentially the same between gasoline and electric. And then the differentiating factor is you pay zero to get the car charged. I think that's an important differentiator. Gasoline is pretty expensive here, so.
While talking charging, are you going to offer the Japanese demo adapter also in Europe to use here with our rapid chargers?
We have multiple adapters for the Model S, so you can actually plug the Model S into almost anything. It really just needs to know what kind of current and voltage it's getting. So excluding the supercharger, which is proprietary to Tesla, it'll take any input current and voltage that any system can provide it, and it will automatically take it at whatever the highest rate is that it can take it at. So yeah. In Japan, for sure, Chademo is important, and we'll have that.
Yes, we saw what happened in New York where the car went over the speed limit and it got very cold quite quickly. Then the car's on sale in